Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hey, podcast listeners, Jason here. In this episode, I have the opportunity to speak with Gabe Curry. He's president of G&S Nursery down in Florida. But when I knew him, he was president of Hub Industrial Supply. One of the things I love about Gabe is he is extremely innovative and he's this continuous learner. So he goes out and he finds out about technology and how it can work in his business. And I think you'll hear that throughout the episode. During the episode, we're going to talk a little bit about, that technology component. He got very into CRM early and really knows how to leverage that inside a distribution business. And I think one of the underpinnings of Gabe is that he really understands how to add value for the customer. I always enjoy speaking with Gabe, and I hope you enjoy listening. This episode of Distribution Talk is sponsored by InSQL Distribution Software. InSQL is a fully functional distribution-based software package. I only recommend software packages that were purpose-built to serve distribution, and these folks do it very well at a price point many smaller distributors can afford. Economy doesn't mean compromise. This company is on the cutting edge of distribution-friendly applications like VMI on mobile devices, mobile signature capture, mobile CRM, warehouse management software, and e-commerce development. If you're ready to step up to a fully loaded, scalable distribution package at an affordable price, look no further than InSQL Distribution Software at www.insql.com. That's INXSQL.com. All right. Hey, Gabe, great to see you as always and hear from you. Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It's nice to connect, Jason.
Fantastic. Well, hey, tell me how you got involved with distribution. I mean, you've been around this a long time now. Where did you get your start? I'll use a horrible pun. Where did you get your roots here?
Well, I started out as a young kid. I worked in the landscaping business. Business has three factors. You've got sales, operations, and accounting. You've got to make or buy something, sell something, and you've got to keep good records. So I got my start. I was working for a landscaper, and they were buying jasmine plants. As they were buying them, I thought I should buy those and grow those and turn them into something. So I bought some pots, I bought some dirt, and I planted some jasmine. When we got married, Betsy and I got married, we got $1,000 from her grandparents, and I took $300 of that $1,000 and I planted some jasmine plants. I thought, what is this? Anyways, and I took that $300 and I steadily multiplied it, and that's what got me into distribution. Distribution is where you buy something, add value, and deliver it to the customer because they're a point in the supply chain that adds value to the customer. I went from there and I went to work for an industrial supply company, bought the industrial supply company, and then sold the industrial supply company. Today, I'm in the distribution business in the nursery industry. We're a wholesale distributor of live plant material throughout the Southeast United States.
It's a whole different deal than the industrial supply. Honestly, it's not that different. I mean, I think one key difference, if you look at dead stock, it's pretty easy to identify in your industry.
Yeah, dead stock is very real, Jason. When you've got a plant, I saw a plant today out in our facility, and when it's dead stock, it's dead stock.
Yeah, really absolutely. Dead. I mean, it turns brown and keels over, and you think, wow.
Yeah, you said it.
That's a challenge to be had. Take me back to the customer side of the business. I mean, again, the things that you did in your industrial career and now in the nursery business. Tell me about your thoughts on that customer and providing value to that customer.
Yeah, it's interesting when you say value to that customer. We've always considered our customers our boss. Sam Walton wrote a thing and he said, every person in every company has one boss, from the chairman to the frontline people, and it's the customer. And I always think to myself, why does a customer buy from a distributor? Why wouldn't they buy everything direct? For the case of Walmart, why wouldn't you call and order your paper towels from Georgia Pacific? So back to your question, how do we get started and how do you deliver value? It's understanding what's important to the customer and what are the factors that the customer is looking for. One of our key things we said in our industrial supply business is we've got to understand the niches and the drivers that drive their business. The customer is the boss. Now, as a company and as a distributor, you can't serve everybody. You got to understand who drives your business, and who will you make the biggest impact on their lives. We did many things, set up many systems. We all use, familiar with the term, probably a CRM. Using a CRM to really track the relationship and what's important to the customer. There's a book out there that I read called The Ultimate Sales Machine, and it was written by a gentleman by the name of Chet Holmes, and he wrote, you've got to know the top 100 things that is important to your customer. What's their favorite sports teams? What are their hobbies? What is their status? And all of that can be tracked into CRM, but it's taking the relationship and putting it in technology and making it a seamless system so that you can deliver the customer more value. I always said if you deliver the customer so much value, they won't replace you and they'll keep you. That's what the goal of a distributor is to add value to the supply chain. That's a lot of detail there.
I mean, I think, those are some definite key points that kind of led you to the success that you've had. And I think one of the most, amazing things or fascinating things about you, and you and I, spent some time working together, you started into this at a very young age and, frankly, got out of part of it, at least at a very young age. I mean, how did you gather these concepts so early in your life? What are those habits that you've developed that allow you to pick up some of these concepts and really run with them? I mean, I know a lot of distributors that are, my vintage, or a little bit older that don't have half of these, these concepts down. So how did you get all of this stuff rattling around in your head?
Yeah, I think one of my core values is to be continually improving. And personally for me is to be continually learning. So you take I started as an industrial supply salesman. I was making, I think about $23,000 a year in the landscaping business, and I wanted to go into sales. So I went to this gentleman that ran a industrial supply company. I said, I'd like to work for you. And he's like, why would you like to work for me? I said, well, because I want to do sales. That's the optimal thing for distribution. And he looked at me and he said, what's the least amount of money you'll work for? And me being young, dumb, and stupid, I think I was 17 years old at the time. I got married very young. And I said, well, $18,000 a year. So I think part of it is I had an incredible hunger to drive, to make myself something. And I took that hunger and I applied it and said, what do I have to learn? But really, I always said to myself, I have to deliver so much value to the customer that they see value in keeping us. We were talking today, we're working on a lot of things in the nursery business to optimize our inventory. The number one challenge in the nursery business is what does a plant look like? It's very subjective because we're dealing with a live plant. So, we had many meetings today and we're looking at it and say, how do we define the quality? And we defined 3 grades. We came up with a commercial, a standard, and a premium grade, because when the customer calls, we can have them a picture in minutes, and when the product is delivered, we also can make sure that we're delivering the product that we said. So it's, when you say, well, what is the defining things? There's many things. I've always said in life, you've got to have 1,000,000 years experience, and you get the 1,000,000 years experience from everybody else. I've learned a lot from working with you, Jason, as far as the inventory goes. We had a lot of conversations today even about it. The cost to hold inventory, 2% a month. Why does that matter? I really think in the nursery business, it's more than 2% a month because I'm dealing with live plants. I've got to water and prune them. Now, one thing we talked about, maybe the plants grow a little bit, so maybe that offsets some of the holding costs because they do get bigger and can be more valuable. I'm not sure that it does, but 2% a month's a big deal. I was talking to one of my friends the other day that's working for a massive distributor, and they just wrote off $65 million of inventory. And he was talking about what that did to the customer. But $65 million of inventory that's not moving, that 2% is a big deal. 2% a month is a big deal.
Yeah, it sounds like continuous learning and looking for those different resources. I think one of the interesting thoughts just kind of came to mind. I know that you got involved with an outside entity because you were a young president. You were eligible to get involved with other young presidents. And I know, you don't want to, divulge the secret sauce there, but tell me what kind of an impact joining that organization and being around those other professionals had on your career, at least so far.
Yeah, it's been massive. I'm part of a group called YPO, which is Young Presidents Organization. And candidly, it's really enhanced and changed my life. There's a group of about, I think it's 20-something thousand worldwide. And I'm part of a forum. And this forum, we meet, 10 times a year. And what we discuss is it's an absolutely confidential forum. And we discuss the different challenges that we have in our business. One of our forum rules is we don't do business with one another. So it gives a very candid opinion from other people that we have no reason besides we want to help each other, and they become some of my best friends. So you think, well, how does that help me? Because even the Bible says, in the multitude of counselors, there's safety. When you have multiple people that are not impacted by the decisions you made, other than they care about you, you get some really, really candid feedback. That feedback can help you make really, really good decisions. I've made a lot of bad decisions in my life, but I've also made a bunch of good ones. So you just want to make more good ones than you do bad ones. And a lot of times I've learned and grown from some of my worst decisions. I remember through 08, 09, I'll never forget those years. Today I'm going to make different decisions, but you also got to be not afraid of taking risk. And so back to that group, the Young Presidents Organization, YPO, really has helped my life because it's given me diversity of opinions with people that are running substantial businesses that have very different walks of life. And those differences of opinion has really stretched my mind to consider all the different things that are out there. I also went to a class at Harvard the first of the year, and there was 150 YPOers from all over the world. So it was an international forum, and it was very interesting. We did 16 case studies, and I left there thought, it's fascinating. The case studies, what should this business do? And there's 150 different opinions. And that's what makes business so fun, so dynamic, and so challenging, is there's so many different opinions and ways to get from point A to point B and do it successfully.
I think that's a wonderful thought there and I think that's been one of the more fascinating things as I've gone through my career, as a advisor on this side of the fence, is it really opened my eyes up. There's so many different ways to handle these business situations.
You said it.
And I think, and without that exterior view, without looking beyond your organization, sometimes you get a very myopic opinion and you get those blinders on. It's like, well, this is the only way I've ever known how to do it. Maybe your predecessor did that. And as I said, going around and working with different people, handling dead inventory, for example, 1,000 ways to deal with that
Absolutely.
problem. And so I think that's wonderful, getting it, that opportunity to bounce that off other people. Several people have shared with me over the years, how those types of organizations have worked really, really well with them. What about like trade associations or, groups that you've belonged to in the years? What kind of value have you pulled from those types of relationships?
I've gotten a lot from different groups and associations. I was part of the ISA, Industrial Supply Organization, staffed, also part of a lot of them in the nursery business. And you get a lot from people in the industry. What's happening? What are the trends? I think one of the biggest conversations in the industrial supply industry is Amazon. How do they process an order? What is the total cost to process an order? How do they handle logistics? I mean, Amazon uses an incredible amount of data. They're a data-driven company to deliver value to the consumer. And as a distributor, for example, if I'm selling a glove, how can I be more money than Amazon, and what's the value, and why should somebody buy from me? Well, it's the number of split shipments. We were talking about it today. I had a customer in Ohio that their default warehouse came from Indianapolis, but if they gave us 18 line items and they ordered 18 line items, we tracked our complete shipments from the closest warehouse. There's a huge savings if they get 18 line items in one shipment versus if they get 18 line items in 12 shipments from Amazon. That's one way that we could substantially beat Amazon, is the number of split shipments. Because the cost for a company to order something, the cost to cut a purchase order can be between $75 to $150. And like you said, there's many ways to save money. So what is the cost of the purchase order? What is their cost of receiving the product? What is their cost if they get 12 different receiving tickets from Amazon and they can get one from me? But it takes an incredible amount of data, and then taking that data, we always say on the dollar bill, it says, "In God we trust." We always say, "In God we trust, all others bring data." Data changes decisions.
I think, again, that's one of the things I've admired about your company, is that you did invest quite a bit of money in your technology in the industrial business, and I'm sure you are in the nursery business as well. But thinking about, going back, you mentioned CRM. This was a big endeavor for your company. I mean, this was a very, very big deal. I mean, you didn't mess around with this. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that road that you went down?
Yes, substantially. So when I started in the industrial supply business, I didn't even have a cell phone, so I had a pager. And we went out, we got started, and I remember I didn't even know how to read maps. I'd make a sales call, and I couldn't get back to the sales call to make the call again because I didn't know how to read a map. I remember laying big maps out in the car, learning how to read them. So in time, I went to the Palm Pilot, And I got my income up many times, but I thought, how am I going to get it to the next level? And I was talking to a guy and he said, you've got to use a CRM. I said, what in the world is a CRM? And he said, well, you use ACT. So I went from a Palm Pilot to ACT, which is a fancy database.
I
And I
remember
started
ACT.
to get it all together and you track the data and the contacts. I learned a lot from that. I can tell you some of the mistakes we made on it. So as I bought this industrial supply company, we had, I think it was like 6 or 8 different ACT databases. So we had to merge them all together and we got it into one and we got up to like 55,000 contacts in ACT. And we're like, whoa, the server got slow. It held all the data. How do you manage duplicates? So we spent a lot of time and we got down to SalesForce and Microsoft Dynamics, both great programs. We went with Dynamics because it integrated with our ERP system. So we took the sales data, pushed it in, and you could see live when they called. So this is a system. We spent months and years cleaning it up. We got our contacts down. We actually got it to when the phone rang, it would go in and find the caller ID, find their contact, and it would pop up on the screen. And then we also rated all the customers, this is something you helped us with, by the value they created for us. We had a star rating, 1 through 6. 6 was the most valuable, 1 we lost money on. So it helped us before we even answered the phone. We knew the value of the customer and what they meant to us. It's data that you could drive your business. So if you had a new hire, you may say you answer all number 1-star customers because we knew. Now, we still treated them with love and care because they may move up to a 5-star customer. But that data enabled us to make business decisions that we could change the relationship. Because we would go to 1-star customers and say, the 1-star customer, a lot of times they want better pricing. Of course, everybody wants better pricing. We'd say, listen, you're a 1-star customer for these reasons. If we change this, and this, we think we could change you to a 5-star customer. Will you go on that journey? And here's what you get if you are a 5-star customer. One thing I will say, banks are pretty good at that. They rate the value to you and they know the value that you are worth to them according to all the transactions. So the better data you know, if number one, if you're making money on that customer, generally the most profitable customers are the most boring. So, which is
very true.
And so it's taking that information and saying, okay, because the 80-20 rule, we've all heard of it, it's everywhere in business. And if we can optimize our business and make a difference on the right customers, that's when it really, really makes a difference. And so, yeah, technology and CRMs can change your business. We're switching to Microsoft Dynamics in the nursery business. And we think it'll be a positive change. We just switched ERPs, and that was a very extensive process. But we got there, and now we're just starting at the bottom curve to see incredible, we should get some return because very few people in the plant business have this kind of technology.
Oh, absolutely. I was just thinking the same thing right now. I'm thinking about in the industrial supply business, the buyer tends to be somewhat sophisticated. They're definitely a little more sophisticated. They have the ability to do research quickly, and a lot of them who buy are sitting at a desk, and so they have this access to information and previous POs and whatnot. So pricing sensitivity is there. But then I started thinking about the customer on the professional landscaping side, the customer that you're selling to today. Very, very different customer out there. So what types of things are you keying on in that CRM? What do you want to get out of that CRM, with this group here? I understood it on the industrial side. But tell me about the plant side, because I know that's a little different.
Yeah, we rate all our customers 3 ways. Well, they go 5 ways. They go from a suspect to a prospect to a customer to a client to a partner. So that's the 5 stages of customer. We also say here we have a customer, a core customer, and a partner customer. So we've got the different criteria, so like for the customer, Can we get them? Can we keep them? Will they pay? And then we'll drill deeper on the criteria of a customer. The biggest challenge we have in the wholesale nursery business is freight. And you say, why is freight? Because gloves and whatnot, you can ship UPS. None of my plants are being shipped UPS. That's one of the reasons I was attracted to the business. It's also the greatest challenge we have is freight. If you ship a big live oak tree, 25 feet tall, and you ship some little 1-gallon pots, there's a lot of freight and logistics. So if a landscaper has to go and get it from 10 different places, 500 miles, there's extreme cost. So basically what we do is we buy, and nurseries will sell to us we pay fast, and then we consolidate it all together and ship it to landscapers. Okay, so how does that apply to a CRM? It's understanding the right customers. Even like our first 3 questions we ask: can we get them? Can we keep them? And will they pay? And if they hit, that's our first questions. And if we hit that, then we start to talk about what's the value, what's their cost to cut a purchase order, what are they looking for? But if we go to them and say, what is your price on a tree? That's no way to win. It's the same thing we always say, what's the cost of milk? Okay, so if I go to the grocery store and buy milk, what's it, $3.50 a gallon? Well, someone could say, well, I can get it cheaper if I milk the cow. Yeah, you can, but you've got to have a cow, you've got to have a fence for the cow, and what if the cow gets out and runs in the road? Someone's going to sue you. So it's understanding what's the value of the distribution chain, and a CRM brings you that data so that you can segment your customers, who you're delivering the value to, who's the freight. Freight is one of the greatest, it's payroll and freight is our greatest expenses in the nursery business. Same thing as the industrial supply business. It's got the same metrics.
Interesting. I mean, sometimes it's very hard to make that correlation, but I think that's, again, the beauty of my opportunity to spend time in a lot of different vertical markets. Distribution, it's supposed to be a pretty simple business, and we just screw it up. We're the ones who complicate it, and we do all that kind of stuff.
Easy to do.
It is absolutely easy to do. Well, that's interesting. Now, going back to some of these, again, what makes that, great customer for you? The one, as you said, they're boring, but what does that really mean to you all?
The great customer for us, what we call a partner customer. 2 or 3 of our people interact with 2 or 3 of their people. That's vital, because we want to make sure that if one leaves on either side, we have a deeper relationship. They give us last look. They understand our core values, and our core values align with their core values. I think that's very vital. And then they understand our core purpose. Why are we here as a company? And that relationships is not built overnight. I mean, studies show a sales cycle on average takes 7 calls. And I think the first call probably they're going to say, is the person going to come back or call back? So it's taking the 7 calls, refining it down, and then moving them along the chain from suspect to prospect, all the way up to a partner. But it's really understanding, are we going to be a fit? And we're not a fit for everybody. What is their objectives? And if they're just looking for the lowest price of milk, they probably should go buy a cow. And if they say owning a cow is pretty easy, go for it. But there's a lot of things in the industrial supply channel that really changes it. So it's taking that CRM and that data and saying, are we a fit according to all of these metrics? You look at a customer and say, well, there's 100 criteria that we have. We rate our customers. We've defined, each one of our reps has a list of 50 target customers, and we rate them according to 10 criteria. So we take those criteria, partnerability, how fast they're paid, and we come up with the score of 100. 100 would be a perfect score, and that's taking data in a CRM and driving it and making sure we're making the right decision, serving the right customers.
I think one of the challenges that most people have making that investment, because as you said, the getting into the CRM, you can go cheap, but if you really want quality, you're going to pay for it. I mean, you're going to definitely pay. How do you get your salespeople to enter data? I mean, this is a tough one. And I know that many business owners struggle with this. I'm going to buy the greatest CRM in the world. But if my people don't, use it or put anything into it. So how did you make that leap? How did you get people to use it?
That's a great question. And it's extreme challenge, particularly now a lot of people are texting. Text communication is getting pretty popular, and they like to communicate by text. We say in our business, if a note does not happen in the CRM, an activity, email, text, it is not logged in CRM, within 3 months, we reserve the right to change the account. And it doesn't happen unless it's logged in CRM. So we could say whatever, but if it's not logged in the CRM, it did not happen. The reason it's tracked in there, it's one of the greatest challenges. People do not want to log in the CRM. The reason you want to log in the CRM, it gives visibility throughout the entire company, so that when a sales executive's on the road and the customer calls into the office, the sales support staff really knows how to serve them. But our definition, if it's not logged in the CRM, the call did not happen. And that's just really been our defining factor, because then it's proof and it's down. And so it's tracking that data and making sure it's under the right contact that's linked back to the customer in the ERP system.
And it sounds like it's extraordinarily important that you do find a CRM system that can link back to your ERP very, seamlessly,
I think it's very important.
relatively seamlessly. I mean, I think that's a
I
relative
don't
term,
think
of
any of
course.
them are optimal. I mean, I think there's a company out there called HubSpot that tries to connect it all together, but it's got to connect. And then out of that, the world has changed. We always say the cost to make a physical call is about $80, and the cost to make a phone call is $5. So a lot of people used to be traditionally was we got to make all these physical calls and do a route sales, but at $80 a call, that's pretty expensive. So if you can combine the phone with a physical call, it lowers your cost to get a customer. I've heard the saying, it's almost like fingernails on the chalkboard. I'm just stopping in to touch base. Nobody wants, you want to deal with someone that's going to add value. So we always say, we don't want to say we're touching base. We're here to create value. What are your challenges? And take that back, change our organization to deliver the customer more value.
Yeah, we definitely don't need any more professional visitors.
No.
I mean, that's just not, that just
I hear
doesn't
touch
help
base,
us.
I think someone's calling to waste my time.
Right. Absolutely. I just want to call and touch base. Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense there. I think, again, you were kind of one of the first companies I was exposed to that really understood that difference between the cost of that phone-based outbound call, or some people like to call it telesales, versus that field representative out there. And you were very successful in that. And I take it sounds to me like you have translated that into the nursery business as well.
Yes, the nursery business is very much on the phone. It's pictures of the product. It's understanding the speed of the accuracy of the product. We do physical calls and we do phone calls, and we also do text. I've learned that text is changing. A lot of people prefer to communicate by text. I do myself. It's just much faster, better way. Now, also, we always say if it's over X amount of text back and forth, a phone call is very better way of communication. But it's understanding text, email, marketing, and a CRM helps you with marketing. What are all the buckets? How do you give coupon codes? What are the offers? What's the number one way for a company to grow is go do a loss retention. Go back to customers they've already sold to because they already know you. There's no way greater to grow your business than reaching out to customers that have already worked with.
Absolutely. I mean, I look at a lot of companies that I've worked with over the years, and I'll ask them, do you have any dormant customers? And they kind of chuckle because there's this whole, laundry list of people that have an active account with your company, and they're dormant for one reason or another. And I think you're right. That is an absolutely fertile ground to go and see if you can expand the business.
Absolutely. And that's what a CRM helps you do. They're the tracking, the data. We always say, you want to know someone's spend, but someone's spend can still be up and you've lost business. In the industrial supply business, we say, okay, they were spending $5,000 a month and now they're spending $7,000. However, you may have lost the gloves and gained a new product. So it's really understanding the analytics to what are the items that have dropped off. And it takes data to look at that. So, okay, you were buying XYZ glove from me. You're no longer buying, but I see you're buying those other product. What happened to that? Oh, we're buying that from Amazon. Well, what do we got to do to add value? Because the more you can get from one supplier, the more value you can create.
It's funny. Yeah, I started talking about this in different sessions about, what I called it was an opportunities report, looking at categories that they used to buy and they don't buy anymore. And some people call it a gap analysis if they want to get real fancy about it. But, the thing that's just, I have to keep reminding people is that the things you put on your shelf tend to be some of the best kept secrets in the business. Nobody, you don't talk about this stuff, or, customers you've had for years and years and years have no idea what you've invested in. Yep. So you have to keep going and farming in that existing customer base and reminding them, hey, these are all the different things we sell.
And here's why we do it, and here's why. Like in the industrial supply business, safety was a big deal for us. In the nursery business, we started out in ground cover, we went to shrubs, and now it's trees. We're doing many millions of dollars of trees. So it's, okay, you do trees. Do you understand trees? The biggest thing with trees is the specs and the logistics. How do you get them? How do you get unloaded? Do I need a crane? When's the truck going to be there? And then not just going to say we do it, say, listen, we understand these and we are professionals on them. And here's why you should work with us. Good news is you can't buy trees on Amazon because I don't see that happening for a long, long time. But you can gloves. And it was always, how do you compare XYZ? Are we quoting the same thing? And that's where a CRM, like you said, the gap, understanding the customer, the value you create, and how you deliver more. And then when you make a phone call and make a physical call, you can really enhance the relationship. There's three things that we ask when we make a call. And these are three things we try to ask about. What should we start doing? What should we stop doing? And what should we continue doing? And the biggest thing that we want to listen to is the stop. What should we stop doing? And we say, listen, we don't want, somebody go to customers and say, you guys are so incredibly amazing. We'll say, that's great. But if you owned our company, what would you do? And that feedback, the stop, what should we stop doing, is usually some of the best feedback, whether on the phone or in person.
Can you think of an example that somebody has told you to stop doing? I mean, that's just fascinating to me. That was just kind of getting the squirrel cage rolling here. But what has somebody told you to stop doing and you said, aha, maybe I should stop doing that?
Yeah, that's good. So we asked that to a lot of customers, and one customer came back to us and said, you should stop shipping poor quality. And we said, that's great. So what we realized is we had to define quality. We were talking today, let's say somebody called and ordered a water bottle. I buy Fiji, I believe you said, water bottles from Amazon because I like Fiji water bottles, and that's a premium water. But if I ordered Fiji and they shipped me Aquafina, which I still think that's good water, but it's different. So in the nursery business, a non-sophisticated business, we had to define the quality. We thought we were doing a good job. So when we asked, what should we start doing? What should we stop doing? What should we continue doing? It got a little deeper than I'm just touching base to see how things are going. Oh, yeah, they're good. Thank you very much. No, you should stop shipping me more quality. Then it's like one article I read, it's the 5 whys. You really want to get to the core of the issue. And
that's that Simon Sinek stuff.
Yeah.
I think it was that. Yeah.
It's just let's really get to the foundation.
Yeah.
And the foundational isn't that we want to ship poor quality or that they want it, but it was our definition of quality. One person, Fiji water bottle is great. Another person, Aquafina. Both are fine. But if you order Fiji and you get Aquafina, you're probably not very happy about it. So what we realized is we had to really define, this isn't just water. This isn't just a tree. What is the definition? And then back to it, how do we get an inventory? How do we get a 5-digit alphanumeric code? How do we tag it on the truck so when they order it, they know they're getting exactly what they want? So what should we stop doing? Or sending so many emails or sending this. But really, all customers are unique. All of us are unique. And if we can cater our business to deliver to their unique request, that's when you really have an amazing business. And use technology, CRM, ERP to really drill that down to understand what's important to them.
Absolutely. I'm sure we could go on and on and on about this, but we probably need to wrap this up here. If you were to go back to that 17-year-old kid and say, knowing what you know now and some of the lessons that you've learned in the business lessons, what would you tell that person, to really focus on? What is really important in life?
It's a marathon and not a sprint. We were talking about it even today. There's 5 things that every person has in life. It's faith, it's family, it's fitness, it's friends, and it's finance. And you've got to balance all 5 because so many times, you can get so focused on finance or friends. You can have the best friends in the world, but you can be broke. And you've got to manage all 5 of those. So the hungry to learn and grow is probably what really helped me. But it's keep life in balance and understand it's a marathon and not a sprint. I just had a birthday yesterday. I'm 41 years old, and I've learned a lot. And just to really understand, I had a saying a gentleman bought from me, and he said, inch by inch, life's a cinch. Yard by yard, life is hard. Every day, take inches forward. Yeah, you'll take some back, but if we just continually move forward, that's better than big steps forward and big steps back.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider hitting that subscribe button. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area on your podcast application or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by Andrea Klunder and Edwin Ruiz at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, The Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.